In this part of the course, we're going to cover how to edit your home page and create a really strong digital first impression on folks. Now, this is just a starting point. What we're trying to get to is something more like this site with lots of rich content and different blog posts, and you don't have to create all this at once. You can do it a little bit at a time. First you just want to polish up your home page and have a couple of strong images there. So these first two I'm showing you are ones that I directly manage, but the rest of these I occasionally lend some advice, some help, answer an email, but they are often running on their own. A bunch of clubs that are running online or in a hybrid format find this to be particularly important because they're trying to advertise themselves to the world. But traditional clubs, Chamber of Commerce Club, this is another one that meets in a realtor's office. Here's a district website that I help support, but again, I haven't touched this in months. They've been able to add video and columns of rich content and keep this up to date on their own. And so the basic resource that we want access to is the WordPress editor. So if I go into this page, and somewhat confusingly, there are links that say edit site, but then there's also one that says edit page. I want edit page. So this is going to let me edit that document that I present on the home page. At the top of every page or post, you have space for a title. The title can be whatever you want. But once you go past the title, you have the option to choose a block. Now, this is a bit of WordPress jargon, but you notice in faint type here it says type / choose a block. And so this will give me a little pop-up with options to choose a content block that I want to add here. Now, if I just start typing, I get a paragraph by default. But if I want a heading, I can do / and choose heading here. If the thing that I want to use isn't displayed right away, I can do / and search for it. So here's a bunch of RSVP Maker widgets. RSVP Maker is the calendaring system that we use in WordPress for Toastmasters. That's only one way to add a block, though. There are also these little plus buttons that give us a pop-up. And you actually get a little bit more information if you choose this plus button in the upper left-hand corner. Well, that gives you, a whole search bar, and we can search for image, and we'll see the different types of image blocks we can insert. So there's a site logo, post-featured image. A cover block is sort of a dramatic presentation of an image that can have text overlaid on it. An image gallery is a bunch of different images laid out in a pleasing way. And there are actually plugins that you can get for more elaborate photo galleries than what's built into WordPress. But the point is that we're going to really choose between, for most basic purposes, we would be choosing a paragraph, a subhead, an image, maybe a video. If you want to get a little bit fancier, you might use a columns block. So if I add a columns block here, so columns, it gives me a choice of whether to make that 2 columns or 3 columns. And then within each column, I can have different content blocks. So I can start off by adding a paragraph, and add another paragraph over here. And we might have headings and images and other things within that column block. So that's probably the fanciest that most people are want to get for at least getting started, is just a few basic content blocks to organize your page. I encourage you to think of it as just add a picture, add a video, add a subhead to organize your page. There are a few simple things that you can do to organize your content. There are also special content blocks, like this is a placeholder for that little widget that advertises, here's our next meeting, RSVP now, here are a few other meetings coming up. And you can see that there are some settings to change there. But if we scroll down, we can select an image and alter the properties of that image. If you look at this website, it has that same RSVP block, and then that's followed by a section talking about coming as a visitor and membership in the club, how to join. So those are presented side by side. Then we have a video. Then we have some other information about meeting roles and responsibility, and a bunch of workshop highlights. Well, we can look at that in the editor. There's this widget for an outline view. We can see paragraph, paragraph, visit as a guest, widget, paragraph, listing of the next events coming up. Here we have columns. And so within the columns, we have column A and column B and more content. So I'm not trying to overwhelm you. I'm just trying to say that there's a lot of options here. Video, and then the workshop highlights section is a latest posts widget that has properties to say that this should be laid out in 3 columns, and then it should include a featured photo from that particular blog post up top to highlight what people are going to get if they click to read the full blog. So again, let's go back here and let's start with one of the simplest things we might want to do, which is to add a photo. And where to place the photo is a strategic choice too, but let's put something above visit as a guest to give them an idea of why they want to visit as a guest. And from here, we can either choose from our media library, which are things that have been uploaded previously, or we can upload a new image. So we'll upload a new image because we don't have much here yet. So I can either click upload and pick from my file system, or actually I can also drag and drop. So let me do that. So I had some stock images of Toastmasters clubs. Drag and drop that in there. I think the fact that it's grayed out meant that it was still uploading. Okay, but it's here now, and we can choose whether to present that large or medium. And the great thing here is that when I resize these images, they're resized automatically, they're resized proportionally, so nobody's face gets squished or anything like that. But let's keep it large, and we can add a caption to it. So now we have this placed on the page, and maybe we change our mind. We decide that this should be a little bit lower on the page. Well, we have these up and down buttons that can allow us to move that farther down. There is some drag and drop that you can do also. You drag and drop by grabbing this little drag handle and saying, oh, actually I want that here. Okay. So we have some content that had been included previously, which we don't want anymore. We can add our own text. We can add a link on that text. So we just highlight the word, and we can mark it bold, we can mark it italic, or we can add a link. Okay. we can decide that we want this bit of text to be centered. So again, don't be intimidated, just a web-based word processor to some extent. Now you can do some fancier layout, and you're not locked into a page structure the way I think you are pretty much on Free Toast. There are other things you can get into later where you're changing the design more. But let's see the changes we've made so far. So now we have a different title. We still have visit as a guest, and we have this image here and our new link. So just by working that way, you can add a lot of content. And let me show you how you add a video too. So if I want to add this video to a page, I also want to show you how to add a video, because that is one of the most powerful things you can do to showcase the quality of your club, everything you have going on. If you've done a workshop or if you just had a member who gave a strong speech, you might want to grab that video. So you can just go to YouTube. You actually just grab this address above and do copy and paste. And WordPress is smart enough to know that that means it should add the YouTube content block. And now, in addition to our image on the home page, we also have a video on our home page. So very cool. This is important how WordPress has been built up over time to incorporate YouTube and other social media, other kinds of digital content that you can use to market and showcase your club. Now, I also want to show you how to create a blog post, because that's one of the basic things that you might want to do to get started. So when the website is initially set up, there's already a blog post here, which is a little promotional thing saying we're creating a WordPress for Toastmasters website. Here's how to find out more about WordPress for Toastmasters and the Toastmost service. So that's just a little starter thing. You can delete that if you want. But even more important, you might want to add something about a member who's just won a contest recently, say. So we go in, we're going to go to New Post. And the advantage of the blog is it has kind of this self-organizing principle into it, where what appears at the top of the blog is always going to be the latest article. You don't have to mess with changing the menus on the website. But you can add something that is cool club news. So Barbara is a friend of mine who also often wins contests. So if I wanted to add the equivalent of this featured image here, I'm going to grab the link to this from YouTube.
Hello, everyone.
And we can copy and paste that into our starter blog post, with some additional text. And there it is. So you'd want to add a little bit more than that, maybe. Elaborate on what it is that makes this contest significant, and who Jim is, and all that sort of stuff. But this is how you can get started fleshing out your club website. At this point, some of you may still be thinking, gee, is it really worth learning all this and maybe having to spend some money on behalf of the club when we have Free Toast, which is, after all, free? It's It's relatively simple. Fill in the blanks, get a website. But if you have more ambition for what you want to do with your website, that's where you run into obstacles. And to help me make that point, I asked Lonnie Huff, who, like me, is aligned to the digital marketing field. I asked her to help explain why it's worth going to the WordPress framework.
I knew right away when visiting my first Toastmasters club that I wanted to become a member. And I knew right away when visiting my club's free Toast host website that I wanted to replace it as soon as possible. Don't get me wrong, I tried to make it work, assuming that the previous VPPR just didn't have as much web or marketing experience. But I soon discovered that the limitations of free Toast host were baked in. The front page did little to showcase what made our club unique because it's identical to the front page provided to the other 15,000 clubs around the world, right down to the same expanding and collapsing sections for Find Your Voice, What Members Say, and ironically, Transform Yourself. I would point out that these are still the same sections provided when I joined 4 years ago. As a web developer, I have often volunteered to create the web presence for any number of personal interests. And one of the easiest ways I've found to quickly stand up a website is by using the popular platform WordPress. But I knew it wouldn't be possible to use WordPress without a way to replace the vital function of being able to create and manage the weekly meeting agenda. So you can imagine my relief when I discovered that another Toastmaster had already created the perfect tool for doing just that. RSVP Maker for Toastmasters is a WordPress plugin that's available for free to more technical Toastmasters who already pay for web space. But it's also available to less technical Toastmasters for a nominal fee that includes a number of brand-appropriate themes along with web hosting at a lower cost than a typical self-hosted website. This plugin allowed me to stand up a brand new club website in just a matter of hours. And in addition to agenda building functionality, I'm able to take advantage of all the power and features of the far more modern WordPress platform, including the ability to make frequent front page blog posts, something that can make a club seem much more interesting and vibrant than the static web page built into free Toast Host. Since that time, David, the developer for RSVP Maker and Toastmost.org, has continually added new features aimed at the needs of a Toastmasters club, including electronic applications, which are automatically kept on file as required by Toastmasters International, integration with PayPal and Stripe, so you can easily collect electronic payment of club dues, helpful reports, including one that collects all the speeches a member has given, electronic evaluations, no more emailing PDFs back and forth. One of my favorite features is the agenda builder, because while it is great for building a weekly meeting, it also lets us create additional events and signups, such as for a morale-building activity like a game night or a planned visit to another club. Overall, having a non-standard web presence is one of the best ways you can immediately differentiate yourself from any one of the other thousands of clubs around the world, or maybe in your local area, that are still using free Toast Host. I am so grateful for the assistance it has provided in making my club stand out, and I hope you'll consider giving it a try yourself.